Hi everyone, I'm Nathan, and welcome to another competitive Modern League with Jeskai Geist. This is going to be round 3, and unfortunately it is another pre-recorded game. The rest of the league is going to be this way. As I said yesterday, I didn't, not pre-recorded, but pre-played. Anyway, I didn't plan to record the league. I just didn't think I'd have time. But then I kind of just ended up feeling motivated to make some videos, I guess you could say, and so I thought that some content would be better than no content, and you'd rather have commentary over the replay than nothing at all. But rest assured, I much prefer to deliver live games to you guys, and that will be the norm for the videos that I release. Once in a while, you may see this. Anyway, that being said, let's get into the game here. We're going to be playing the same list that we did in round 1 and 2, obviously. So check round 1 if you want to take a look at the deck list. I don't have it anymore, and I don't want to try and go and rebuild it and everything. Okay, so let's obviously we're going to play. This hand is totally fine. We have Colonnade into Scalding Tarn. If we're playing against Burn, we even have like Colonnade into Easy Red Source for this Helix. We have early interaction here. We're on the play. If we were on the draw, I might semi-second guess this hand, only because it's a little slow on the draw. Alright, so as normal in Modern, you can gain a lot of information about your opponent based on the first land that they play. And this is looking like we're probably playing against something like Edlrazi and Taxes, or potentially Black-White Tokens. Probably the most likely suspects. Could be some other decks that aren't playing, say, blue or green. They just don't have that land up, but most likely those first two. At least that would be my initial guess. Alright, so we'll go ahead and play our Scalding Tarn. And then just pass the turn. Opponent is going to play Leonin Arbiter, so obviously we're going to fetch with this on the stack. And most of you probably know, but if you don't, you want to ensure that when this is still on the stack, before it's resolved, you do your fetching then. That way you get to search. Otherwise, you'd have to pay for this. And small tip for those of you playing Magic Online that might not know or have encountered it yet, you have to click on this to activate the ability and then pay for it. If you can't, it won't. It's not a trigger. It won't ask you. And so we go ahead and Helix that, and we get to make some life back, which is great. And we drew another. The one thing about our hand was that we had 4 lands, which is kind of a lot, but we've drawn 2 non-land spells in a row, so we really can't ask for more. And they're both removal spells against a creature deck, so it's going well for us in that regard. Maybe see an Athalia here, something at that cost. Could also be Leonin Arbiter. And unfortunately for opponent, they're kind of off to an awkward start with regards to how their deck plays out. They didn't have a turn 1 Aether Vial. They don't have like a turn 3 Thought-Knot Seer. They're sort of just... Okay, so that's totally fine. So I'm suspecting here that I bolt this. Yeah, fetch, probably getting a Sacred Foundry. Yep. That gives us the double red that we need for things like Bolt, Snap, Bolt, as well as doubles up on our white. It gives us all of our blue. Our colors are just perfect here. And if we see a Thought-Knot Seer, obviously we would be thrilled to counter draw that. Which it looks like that's what he's gearing up for based on how he's tapping his mana. Maybe having second thoughts. Maybe he's worried about Cryptic and wants to bait something else out. And actually here, I decided to... So I had a couple different options. One easy one would have been, and maybe even a better option, I could have just Bolt, Snap, Caster Mage, and bolted. both pieces of that and then had a threat in play. But I remember thinking, well, I wanted to just kind of begin cantripping my way through the deck. Like I didn't want to hold on to this cryptic forever. I wanted to, sort of, I wanted to use all of my mana, which Bolt Snap Bolt would have done, but I also kind of wanted to draw a card. I wanted to be able to hit my next land drop if possible. I just wanted to keep the card velocity going. As far as which is the correct play, I don't know. Bolt Snap Bolt is fine. I think that this cryptic play is fine as well. Now, I will say, if I could go back and do it, I might have Bolt Snap Bolted here, simply because we'll be better protected from a Thought-Knot Seer, which it looks like he had with this cryptic command, but we played 4 cryptics and we drew into another one anyway. The reason I actually shocked there was I was thinking, well, maybe I may want to do something like Snap Helix and then Bolt something, depending upon what he plays. And so I just kind of wanted to have all of my mana available to me, and it didn't really seem like I was risking much. Opponent looks like he's tapping out for that Thought-Knot Seer that we suspect he had earlier, which he did. All right, so now things are coming together nicely, because now we can snap cryptic things. At some point, we can bounce this file before it really becomes a problem, and just sort of, make our opponent waste a bunch of time trying to tick it up, depending upon how they play their hand. Meaning, like, if they're really afraid of counters and they are relying on this, we can bounce it at some point. And it looks like our opponent's not going to do anything. He has 4 cards in hand. I doubt they're all Path to Exile, so I think they are going to... They've kind of gotten burned on some counter spells. They're probably worried about something like a Snapcaster Mage into a Cryptic Commander. Like, I'll just play this Vial. Or rather, they're going to just sit on the Vial. I can't remember if I did this now. Yeah, so I think what I decided to go ahead and do is just snap, bounce the Vial. It might seem like kind of a strange play, in that Snap Cryptic is a really good play for us, but he didn't do anything with his turn at all, and I wanted to do something with our turn. And so I wanted to this gets us a threat in play. We have answers for just about everything. We could even, well, we don't have enough in the graveyard at this moment, but we can counter anything large that he plays. Like if he's not going to play anything and he's just going to play the Vial and then try to tick it up and hide behind it, I want to be attacking with Snapcaster Mage. And if he's going to try to block with Shambling Event, I have a Lightning Bolt as well. I'm not an expert with black-white, just Eldrazi and Taxes deck, but I can't imagine like just sitting back on the Vial is the right thing to do. So again, kind of like earlier, I wanted to do something with the turn. I wanted to, draw an extra card, keep the cards coming, that kind of thing. And I wasn't going to snap counter the Vial. I don't think I had the option to snap counter it. But what I was going to say is, had he played it this turn, I didn't want to snap counter it without seeing what he was going to do. I don't know that I guess this is fine, but our opponent has to think that we have a removal spell. But this is kind of sort of what I was talking about. So the Snap Cryptic helped us draw into this Geist of St. Traft, and now we're in a position where we're able to play Geist and have up Logic Knot. And there's not much more that we can ask for. I'm completely fine with our opponent trading a land for that, or completely fine with our opponent pathing Snapcaster Mage. So I have Logic Knot for anything really scary. Like a Thought-Knot Seer would be an ideal target for this. questionable play there on my part. We obviously played Logic Knot, but it might have been better to just let this thing path. Rather, let this thing come into play and path it. Gives him an extra land, but it's just better not to let that Thought Knot resolve, I think. And I think that we just better, like, we would have been down a path, but I think we just better protect ourselves. Oh, you know what I think it might have been? I had this. No, I didn't have the Queller at that time. That's right. So I think what I actually decide to do here, looking at this board state, probably because I can't remember if I did it, but looking at it, it makes me think of it. Okay, so Geist is 6. If we just play Spell Queller, that's 8, and then Colonnade is 12. If we just go Geist, then Colonnade. I guess he could have a Fatal Push, but Geist and Colonnade is, or rather, Geist and Colonnade is 10. This, I think I do that. I think what I decided to do is just play the Spell Queller and make it so that he's dead to any creature. Let's see. Yeah. So now, assuming that our Colonnade gets this attack in, he's actually just dead to the Electrolyze. And you might say, well, you didn't get all the value out of your Spell Queller and this and that, but this is, I don't know that I'm playing this game perfectly, but this is kind of a good example of when it's time to just play this as a creature, when it's really time to turn the corner. You know, sure, we could have Spell Quellered that Thalia, but we didn't necessarily need to. We had the ability to do a bunch of damage in the next turn, and we could be a little bit more liberal with our resources in order to gain information. So we can let the Thalia resolve knowing that we have another way to kill it and play this after the fact for less value if we want to. And so obviously now the game is pretty well locked up. I mean, he's got 2 cards in hand. We have 3 creatures that were lethal. I guess he's going to have 3 cards in hand. We know he's not going to have 3 removal spells. And our opponent decides to pack it in. Okay, so obviously I can't show the sideboarding. I probably boarded out. I would imagine I boarded out. I probably brought in the Dusk Dawns because he does have Thought Knots. He does have Blade Splicers. The little flicker guy. He has enough creatures that have 3 power to bring it in. I probably cut things like the Cryptic Commands because normally they're just not as effective because of this. I probably brought in a Stony Silence, which might seem kind of weird, but their deck's just so much better with this. And, you know, I probably wouldn't bring in something like a Wear Tear, but a Stony Silence just shuts off. Like, here's my thoughts on this. If you bring in like something like a Wear Tear, you kill their 1 Aether Vial. If you bring in 1 Stony Silence, you shut down all the Aether Vials in their deck. Anyway, so I'll see you guys for the second game. Alright, so opponent's on the play. That's kind of went too fast when he said play button. That was a mulligan. Let me just go back to that. Okay, so this is a mulligan. The fact that we have Island and Serum Visions is good, but what we didn't really have is like a way to deal with an early creature like a Leonin Arbiter or something like that. It's possible this should have been a keep. The other thing that was weird is we have all these cryptics, but if we don't see a land, we're definitely going to have to get a Sacred Foundry with this. and it's just the hand's just kind of missing. Like this Serum Visions needs to make sure it gets us. It needs to do a little color fixing. It needs to do some land drawing, as well as removal drawing. And I just felt like we'd be trying to do too much with this Serum Visions. It's like we're trying to find two things and we're going to see 3 cards or something like that. So I decided to throw this one back in favor of trying to find something a little bit more interactive, which I actually think that this is arguably a little better because we have the early interaction, and we have lands that are going to be better from a cryptic standpoint. Go ahead and keep the 3rd land on top, I'm sure. Opponent does not have the turn 1 Vial again. Does have a Dark Confidant, which, you know, I had a decision to make about whether I was going to path that or not, and I decided to do it knowing that it could give them a land to play Thought-Knot Seer next turn. I just feel like this is an attrition-based matchup between our removal against his creatures and our Snapcaster Mages. It looks like it did keep in the Cryptic Commands. I probably... What I think I cut is the Logic Knot, and I may have trimmed a Cryptic, but I also kept the Cryptics, again, because at some point I can bounce a Vial. And I think that's, given the opportunity to do so, I think it's pretty powerful because it makes their deck so great. So my thought here is, you know, I'll find, if this is a Thought Knot, I'm thinking, okay, I'll find a way to deal with this. We have time, and now, you know, we can bounce it with a Cryptic Command if we need to. Opponent knows about the Spell Queller. He knows that he knows we don't have an immediate way to deal with it. So I'm just like still not worried at this point. I'm sure we'll find a way to deal with it. We have other paths. We have, you know, Snapcaster Mages and the like. This is just such a prime, lovely target for Spell Queller. We are obviously going to play that. And I shock knowing that we're going to go down to 10 after this Thought Knot attack. And depending upon what he does, I'm fine to even take the 4, go to 10, and then potentially counter his next spell and bounce a Thought Knot, which is probably what I do because he can't replay it. We have another Cryptic Command, plus the Thought Knot draws us a card anyway, and it drew another Cryptic, which is kind of crazy. These Cryptics are just proving amazing right now. And again, he didn't have that early Vial, so now he's forced to just kind of play into these Cryptic Commands. That's the Thought Knot we bounced. Of course, now we're going to counter draw it. Game's looking pretty good. He does have a path, comes back down, but now we still have a Cryptic. We have a way to deal with it. We can bounce it if we need to. Recognize that, you know, he tapped out, didn't have a Ghost Quarter. It's a good opportunity for us to kind of even out the life totals here and get an attack with Colonnade. We weren't going to do anything probably with this Cryptic Command anyway. Rather, it's not that we were going to do anything with it anyway. I didn't like sitting back and getting. I guess I just felt like it was more important to attack with the Colonnade, knowing he might resolve something and hoping that basically our deck delivers. It might have been right to. That might have been a misplay. It might have been right to just take the damage and then wait and bounce this into turn if he doesn't do anything else. Probably was. But drew the path. And a Snapcaster Mage, which is pretty great. If I remember right, I think I might have made a couple questionable plays right here. Let me see. Yeah, so I don't know that I necessarily... I'm trying to remember. Why did I let myself... Because I have, like, Snap Path, and if I need the Cryptic, I have the 3rd or the 4th island here. I could have pathed this, been at 6. I cannot remember why I decided to take the 3. I think it would have been better to just path it. Because it looks like that's what I'm going to do anyway. And then I'm probably just going to cryptic counter this. Oh, actually, I remember thinking about that. I don't think I counter this. Why didn't I counter that? So, yeah, it's actually... I put myself in somewhat of an awkward situation, I think, here. By taking the 3. So if I counter draw this, then I don't have a way to... I think I just kind of played this turn real weird. I should have snap path that. Oh, you know what I think I was really afraid of? I think I was kind of afraid of a Thought Knot Seer. I still think I should have played counter draw with this. Or on this. So if I had done this correctly and snap path the Edlrazi Displacer, if he plays this other one, then I have Cryptic Command. Then I'm at 6, and he casts. So then I'm at 6, right? Let's say this is his next play, and I counter draw it. And now he's in this weird position where if he wants to block with Shambling Vent, he can't do anything else with this turn. And there's a good chance we also, between drawing here and then drawing next turn, draw a way to kill the Shambling Vent. Yeah, so this turn was just kind of played messed up. I should have just snap path the Edlrazi Displacer, played Cryptic Commanded this with counter draw, and gone from there. I think... Okay, I was like, did I attack? Obviously, snap is something he doesn't want to bounce back to our hand with this. So what I'm doing here is essentially trying to use this. I'm going to use this Cryptic Command to like tap and bounce or something like that. I can't use Colonnade in defense because of this. Looks like it has a removal spell. So now I'm kind of forced to... I can't Cryptic tap because then he can activate this. So I actually need to like tap and bounce and not draw a card. I do have this Dust on, and I'm kind of hoping like, all right, well, maybe he'll commit further to the board and I can get some additional value out of this, but now I also need to then draw a removal spell. So thinking back just a little bit more here, I would have been at 6. I think it was. This would be dead. Yeah, so I kind of like put myself in a worse position with some misplays. But yeah, I'm kind of like my deck's drawing well, and I'm managing to stay in it despite my mistakes. So Serum Visions is great. I guess he didn't replay the land that I bounced. I think I knew that at the time. I'm assuming he played Ghost Quarter, then I bounced a Shambling Vent. That's kind of a reason to even consider maybe playing lands after combat, but he wasn't able to replay it, so now I don't even have to necessarily draw a removal spell with Serum Visions. I just need to I basically can draw whatever I put on top because he's not going to be able to kill me with the Shambling Vent since he couldn't replay and I'll only take 1. So I'm pretty sure I put colonnade on bottom, bolt on top. Play that guy. I don't remember what I did here. Oh, right. I was, you know, I probably should just let myself take the one. I know I have bolt on top. And that's another misplay. I should have just let myself go to one and draw the bolt. Then I have like a bolt and a snap. So then the following turn, if he, attacks like with this and this, then I can like, you know, bolt this, block this, bolt the other thing, whatever. I can kill 3 things basically. And so now our opponent just doesn't have to play anything, and we don't really get extra value out of our Snapcaster Mage. Opponent's doing something. So it kind of seemed like both of us were beginning to make mistakes at this point, because there's no reason for him to play this. He's just letting me get value out of my Path to Exile. And I know I'm drawing a bolt, so I know I have an answer to this, which is going to let me then cast the Dawn side of Dusk Dawn. It's kind of a weird game, guys, but this is what happened. Like, I'm making mistakes, he's making mistakes. His deck didn't draw so well. My deck drew pretty well. It's not that his deck drew bad, but he didn't draw the key piece, so I think these games would have gone differently had he drawn a Aether Vial turn 1. So this is pretty super unfortunate. You know, we had a nice plan lined up, and then our opponent plays Rest in Peace. It's okay, we have a bolt for this. So obviously what we're going to do here is just bolt this and then play an Ambush Viper at the end of turn. I don't know what we're drawing next turn, but opponent has 1 card in hand, no threats. We technically have 2 threats, and we're going to knock our opponent to 8. We also we drew a bolt, which is great. We're also going to go ahead and fire up the Colonnade, knowing he has a Ghost Quarter because he only has 1. We have another Colonnade. This is actually something that you kind of see happen pretty often. And so next turn we actually potentially have lethal here, because we can bolt him to the face to 5, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 damage. It's actually don't even need to bolt him. He's just dead to our creatures. But that bolts some insurance. I think I just bolted his face. I mean, he has 1 removal spell. Even if he has like a removal spell, you know, he's gonna then have to consider removing his own Bob at that point. He's just too far behind. Almost threw the game away. It was interesting to see how like that 1 turn of bad sequencing there, or not even sequencing, but just how we elected to utilize our spells, almost kind of threw the game. But the deck's sweet, and it rewarded us for our bad play by delivering all the right cards. So you take what you can get. Better to be lucky than good, they say. All right. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button. Subscribe if you aren't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon.